Hi, everybody. My name is Jacob Bright, and I am a seventh grade math teacher at Western Middle School. I'm actually the math teacher for the Liberty Hallway, and also the middle school football coach, head football coach. And so the first thing I want to do, this is the 2020 call-out meeting for middle school football. I want to give you guys my information. My email address is jbright@western.k12.in.us. And then my Google Voice number is 765-416-1765. It's the same Google Voice number I give to my students for e-learning. So feel free to call or text that number if you have any questions, or shoot me an email, and I can answer any questions I don't get to in this call out. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, and so we'll go ahead and jump right in. Our first practice is August 3rd. That's a Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. on the practice field. That's outside. It's on the other side of the football field, close to the soccer fields. And so before practice can start, there's a few things, or before your child can participate in practice, there's a few things that they need to turn in to the school. And so the first thing that they're going to need is a Western physical packet. And so I have a copy of the physical packet right here, and this should be emailed out to you. So you can fill this out if you need to. It looks very similar to last year's physical packet. It's not just for the doctor to fill out. There's a page or two at the end that the student and parents need to fill out as well, and kind of sign here at the end. So that's what the physical packet looks like. Now, one change because of the coronavirus is that the ISHAA is allowing all the physicals from last year to carry over to this year. So if you had a Western school physical on file, then there's a good chance that it will carry over and you won't need to get another physical for your child this year. The only exception would be athletes with specific medical conditions. They may be required to get reevaluated by a doctor. So if you have any questions about that, please contact the athletic office and they can let you know if your physical is still good or not. But for most of you, it probably will still be good. What's new, though, is that everybody's going to have some consent and release forms to sign. There's the IHSAA Health History Update Questionnaire, Consent and Release Certificate, the athletic consents and authorization form, and the parental waiver form. And then those should also be emailed out to you guys for you to sign and send back to the athletic office. And again, we will need this stuff on file before practice starts in order for them to participate. So this is what that looks like. You can see there's, I think, 4 different pages that need signed and filled out before they can participate. Okay, the next thing that we'll talk about is the band app. Now, this is the app I use. It's not band like marching band. It's just like a band of brothers. It's a way of communicating to everybody, and also a way of putting the schedule out there for everybody to see. So it's an app that you can download on your smartphone using the iPhone or the App Store or the Google Play Store. And I'm going to post all the practice and game schedules. Actually, it's already on there. I'll show you in just a moment. Any weather cancellations, or just any other important information that you're going to need. And so now I can show you real quick how to join the band. WMS Football is what ours is called, and make sure you allow notifications. So pretty simple instructions here. You're just going to download the app. It looks like this green little bee right there. And then you'll download it from the App Store, Google Play Store, and then you'll need to sign in. If you've already got an account, or if you're new to band, create an account using your email address or cell phone number. And then you'll just search for WMS Football and click join. It's that simple. And then it's just like Facebook, and you can see all the notifications that have been sent out. You can see the schedule. It's kind of what it looks like, screenshots from my phone. Actually, I will show you here exactly what that looks like. Go to this. And I can show you what this looks like. And we can actually see the first few practices have already been scheduled, and our game schedule is also already posted on band. So you can see here, it's the WMS Football, it's the Western Football logo there. And so once you join, it's just like Facebook. You can scroll down and you can see former posts. Again, and if you have notifications turned on, which you should, anything I send out, you'll immediately get sent to your phone. What's important to note down here is the calendar icon. If you click on that calendar icon, you can see our schedule, and we're not doing anything in July, but you can see our first practice there on August 3rd. You can see the practice times here on starting August 3rd. And then the blue dots represent practice, and then the green dots represent games. So our first game is August 20th. So the first week of practice, we're actually going to practice from 6 to 8 p.m. on all 5 days of the week. I don't normally practice on Fridays, but because we need to get 10 practices in, or at least 10 practices in before our first game, I am going to practice on that first Friday. And then once school starts on the 12th, something interesting is going to happen. I can actually scroll down to that. You can see the practice time switches to 3 to 5. That's right after school. So typically what we do is school gets out at 2:30. Students then have a half hour to get over to the locker room, get dressed for practice, and head outside. Now, we may not have access to the locker room because of the coronavirus restrictions. Right now they're limiting how many people can even be in a locker room. So there's a good chance we may have to adjust this practice time to another evening, to an evening practice time, because if we're not able to store our equipment in the locker room, then I can't have the kids just bring it and set it all over wherever they in their classroom. It wouldn't make sense. So practices that week are going to be from 6 to 8. You can see the 10th and then the 11th are still 6 to 8. And then once school starts, we're tentatively scheduling it for 3 to 5, but that may have to change. And then you can notice we're not going to practice on that next Friday, but we won't practice on any other Fridays once school starts. Our first game is the 20th. You can see on the game schedule that tells who we're playing. It tells what time the game is. It also has an H for home and an A for away. So our second game is Eastern. And if you click on Eastern, you can actually, I'm sure you know where Eastern High School is, but there's actually a map that you can click on to guide yourself there. It tells what time the buses are leaving. And it also allows you to save this to your Apple Calendar, your Google Calendar. One thing about away games is that the 7th grade players will need to stay after school because the bus leaving at 4. I know that's a problem a lot of times for kids to even get back that early anyways. They'd have to be back by at least 3:30 to get their stuff ready and get on the bus. And so typically what we do is we'll just stay work on homework for about a half hour, go over some game details, and then we'll go over and get ready to get on the bus. But the 8th grade players will be able to go home before the away games and the home games, obviously. If your child is an 8th grader and they won't be able to make it back in time, and I'll let them know ahead of time what the designated times they have to be back for are. If they're not able to get back in time, they can stay with the 7th graders, and then one of their coaches will be back and ready to go on the bus with them, so they're supervised the whole time. They can stay in my room, and that's where we stay after school, is in my room for these games. So that's the Band app. It's pretty easy to use. If you have any questions about getting joined in that, make sure you shoot me an email or a text, or just call me and I can help you figure that out. And now we'll go back to the call out page here. Okay, so whoops. Required items that the kids will need for this year: athletic shorts, athletic shirt. It's very important that their shirt has sleeves. One of the restrictions due to the coronavirus this year is that they are not allowed to have cutoff shirts or sleeveless shirts. They need to have shirts with sleeves. I know even in the past, we've had kids go out and just put their shoulder pads over no shirt at all. And so that's not going to be allowed this year. They have to have a shirt, or it might be a good idea to have a couple shirts ready to go in their locker. Athletic shorts are important because we'll actually practice most of the time in just shorts, shoulder pads, and helmet. That's something the high school does. Coach Stewart from the high school varsity coach does that, and that's something we do as well, just to keep the kids, well, it keeps them from wearing down as the season kind of progresses on. We will practice in pants. We will do hitting, but we won't do that every single time. So they'll need a good pair of athletic shorts. They're not wearing jeans or khaki shorts. Football cleats are allowed. Mouthpieces, I'd recommend 2. I'd recommend the mouthpiece that has the little attachment that goes around the face mask. Please don't cut those off, as it's really easy for the kids that cut those mouthpieces off, stick them in the side of their helmet, and then they fall out. And so it's a good idea to leave them wrapped around their helmet. New this year, we will need cloth face masks because we're going to be social distancing and wearing masks when we can. Now, as far as what that wearing a mask looks like during practice, They're not going to have to wear a mask when they are practice or when they're conditioning and that kind of stuff. But when they're standing around after practice and social distancing isn't possible, they'll have to wear a face mask or a cloth face mask, not just the football face mask. And then obviously traveling on the school buses, because one of the rules from Western this year is that they have to have a mask when they're on the school buses. So they do need to wear that cloth face mask, the same one that they're going to be required to have from school. A combination lock will be good, especially if we're in the locker rooms. Our plan is to be in the locker rooms. We don't know if that's going to be allowed. We'll just kind of have to wait to see what the policy through the state and what through Western's policy is. But if we do end up using the locker rooms, they will need a combination lock. And that's so they can lock up their equipment during practice and then after practice, because we use the visitors locker room. So assuming that we will get a locker room, it'll be the visitors locker room out there on the football field. It's very convenient to use, but it's also used by the visiting team when our varsity has a home game that Friday night. And so we will need to lock our stuff up, because everything that's stolen out of somebody's locker, that student is responsible for. So they need to have that locked up. I will keep a notepad of all the students' locker combinations, so that if they forget at any point in time, they can come ask me and I will help them get into their locker. So when they do bring their combination lock in for practice, I'll write it down and then make sure I have that on file for them so that they don't get locked out. Football girdle. Football girdle, for those of you coming from Panther Pack, the pads that go in their students' pants are no longer sewed into their pants. So what we have in the middle school is we have individual pads that have to go into the pants. And then you have to weave the belt in and out. And some of you old school football dads might remember this, but weaving the belt in and out of the pads so that they're all in place. And that can be time consuming, especially when you only have a half hour to get to practice and you're taking your stuff home every week to wash it. And you have to redo it. So take the belt out, put it back in. I recommend a football girdle. You can purchase this from Dick's Sporting Goods, from Dunham's, or wherever you'll see football girdles. And if you don't know what they look like, they look like this right here. This is what a football girdle looks like. It's got the two thigh pads already in it. It's got hip pads, and it's got, you can't see it, but it's got a tail pad back there. So the only pads that are missing that kids will need to put in their pants are their knee pads, and those are the easiest ones to put in. So this will make life a heck of a lot easier. You don't have to take these pads out when you throw it in the washer. It's just like a pair of underwear. Kids put it on, they put their knee pads in, and then they're ready to go, and it cuts out about 15 minutes of the whole prep of doing that. So you can probably find a cheaper price, maybe, I guess. Maybe you might already have one. What I'm looking at right now, I'll talk to you a little bit more about, is our middle school Western football team store. And so you can purchase a lot of these items, including the girdle. Now, one heads up is that this may take 4 or 5 weeks to ship once the store closes, so it may not be in for the start of practice. So if you do order the girdle from the team shop, it will get in. They may have to use the old style system of putting their pants on until that girdle does come in. So if you want to make sure your girdle is in for the start of the season, you can go and you can purchase one somewhere else, or go in store and purchase one. Okay, so back to that. Water jug is going to be extremely important, because as far as I know, all the water fountains outside will be turned off. I know all the water fountains in the buildings will be turned off and not allowed this year. So the only source of water the kids are going to have is the water they bring themselves. That's why it's a required item. So that does need to be clearly labeled with permanent marker or a piece of tape with their last name on it. Minimum of 32 ounces. I know they make bigger sizes. Feel free to bring as big or as much water as you want. They will have lots of water breaks, and they cannot share. Obviously, they're not supposed to share anyways, but definitely not with the virus going around. So they will be using only their own water jugs. It's important that they all have one. Hand sanitizer is strongly recommended to keep in their locker. And then an athletic cup. I don't check for athletic cups, but I do recommend that the boys wear them. Some coronavirus COVID-19 updates, and I've already talked about a few of these. I'm just going to make a blanket statement and say that we will make sure we're following the most recent Western School Corporation policies. So if they change something throughout the school year, then we will adhere to that. If they say, hey, you're not going to be able to practice anymore, or the season's going to be postponed or whatever, we will adhere to that. So any sort of changes they make to their plan, we will be updating those as well. Coaches and athletes will be social distancing or wearing a face mask whenever possible. Locker room access may be restricted at the start of the season. I talked about that because of the COVID and the locker room restriction. Only has, right now, I think only 50% of the locker room can be used. And if that percentage doesn't change, there's no way we can get all the kids in there. Players must provide their own water. And then I already mentioned the shirts. No cutoff shirts will be allowed, and that shirts have to be worn under the shoulder pads. That's no exceptions to that rule. Practice expectations. So getting away and just kind of going back to the way we normally do business here. Players, I already mentioned, must have 10 practices in before they can dress for a game. Now, we have 12 practices scheduled, so that gives a little bit of leeway. They can miss a couple practices for, I guess, whatever reason, and still be eligible for that first game, but they have to get 10 in before that first game. So that's why we're practicing that first Friday. But then we're not practicing any other Fridays because I actually encourage the players to go out and watch the varsity scrimmage or eventually the varsity games, home and away games. So if players are not going to be at practice, there's I need to be notified. So here's my definition of an excused miss for a practice. I have been notified by text, email, or in person before the end of the school day that the player will be absent from practice. I need to be notified by the player. I need to be notified by a parent or one of the two before the school day is over, because I jet out right after class and I head out to the practice field. So I'm not hanging around very long. So I need to know. An unexcused practice would be that I have not been notified, so the player is not there and I don't know why. I do not want another kid coming up to me and saying Johnny's going to be absent from practice. I need to know from Johnny, or I need to know from Johnny's parents that he will be missing practice. If it is an unexcused practice, it will result in a running punishment, and then missing multiple practices may result in loss of playing time. And this could be excused practices or unexcused practices. Because typically on your typical week, we only have 3 practices between games. We may play on a Wednesday and then have Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, and then we're playing again on another Wednesday. So if they miss 2 of those practices, they miss 2/3 of the install that we've done. So try to make it a point to be at practice. I know doctor's appointments come up, dentist appointments come up. You get sick. Obviously, if you're sick, please stay home. But try to make it a point to come to practice if you're able to. Come prepared every day. Bring all your equipment. No equipment is going to be handed out. If you leave your helmet at home, you're not getting another one. You'll just sit out on all the stuff that we have to do with helmets and probably do some extra running. If you forget something at school in your locker and it's game day and we're at Eastern and we're ready to play and you forgot your cleats or you forgot something, then don't expect to play. So just make sure you have everything that we, as 7th and 8th graders, we need to be learning responsibility and how to take care of ourselves. And then players are responsible for all the equipment and jerseys that are checked out to them. We will be doing equipment checkout that first week, probably start with the 8th graders, getting them their helmets, and then the 7th graders, and then we'll hand out shoulder pads and all that, and jerseys eventually as well, that first week or 2 of practice. But players must attend the mandatory equipment check-in at the end of the season so that they can get all that stuff handed in. Anything that they don't hand in, they will be charged and billed for by the athletic department. Typically, we will do like a pool party and make this kind of a fun into the season. I think our last game is October 6th, maybe, I think against Tipton. And so that's on a Tuesday. If my dates are correct, that's on a Tuesday. And then we'll probably do an equipment check-in that following Thursday. So it gives you a couple days to wash the equipment and to bring it back in. And if everything's going well with the coronavirus and we can get access to the pool, we'll do a pool party. If not, we'll try to find something else that we can do to have fun. Locker room expectations. If we have access to locker room, I mentioned we have to lock everything up because we have the visiting locker room. And then obviously that locker room is also unlocked while we're outside. So anybody could come in and root through your backpack, take your iPad. So we got to make sure our lockers are locked if we're in the locker room. And then we have to keep it clean. I'll talk more about that once we do get into the locker rooms. School expectations. I will be checking grades. I will be checking missing assignments. Players must maintain good grades. Players that have an F or just have a massive amount of missing assignments, which usually results in a low and a poor grade, may be required to work on homework during practice. I have drug a desk out from my classroom out and set it under the football awning before and had students work on missing assignments to get their grades up during practice. And I am not afraid to do that again. So make sure you're taking care of business in school. The reason we call you student athletes is because, and that student comes first, is because that's your job. Your job is to be a student, is to be a good representative of our school. The athlete part is the privilege. It's the fun part that you get to do for maintaining good grades and good discipline. And speaking of good discipline, I also have access as a teacher. I have access to your grades. I have access to your missing assignments. I have access to your discipline referrals. So if you are constantly getting rid of, or if you have in-school, out-school suspension, after-school suspension, you will be punished for that, whether it's a running punishment or you may just be suspended, all or part of the next game. And habitual offenders are not going to be allowed to continue with the team. They'll be kicked off. So that was a lot of information that I covered. So the first thing I need you to do that I didn't mention already is that I will need you to actually get signed up for the Western football team. And so to do that, you can actually click on this link if you have a digital copy. I'm hoping this digital copy gets emailed out to you. I've also, the link should be emailed out to you as well. And I've posted the link in this YouTube description. So if you look at the description of the YouTube video, you can get here. And so that link is just going to take you to this page here where you can sign your kid up for Western football. So I can get a number of how many kids we're going to have. It's going to ask for their name, for your name, so I can contact you if there's still information that I need to gather. Students' first and last name, what grade they're going into, and then their shirt size. We will be purchasing again this year travel shirts for the kids. We do a fundraiser every year, and the proceeds of that fundraiser go to the football program, and we actually take out about $700 a year and we purchase all the kids' shirts at no cost to them. So I do need to know what size shirt I will need to purchase for your kid, and that will be the shirt that they can wear to all the away games. They can wear under their shoulder pads. It will be a dry fit shirt, so usually the kids will wear that during the games. So please sign up for, make sure you get your kids signed up so we can get an idea. I can take attendance that first practice, have an idea of who's coming. Go back to this. So that's kind of number one, is get your kids signed up for middle school football. And then, like I mentioned, please download the band app and join the WMS football band if you haven't already. 8th grade parents, you probably are already joined. And then number three, turn in all the required items to the athletic office, the required forms, and make sure you have all the required items purchased. So the required forms, as I mentioned, the Western physical packet, if you're new to Western, you need to make sure you get that in. If you had one turned in last year, you probably are okay. And you'll need to sign these forms. Everybody has to sign these forms before practice can start and turn those in. And then the required items I mentioned right here, make sure they're ready to go. Other than these items that the students need to have, there is no fee for middle school football. There's no cost. The shirt comes free to them. They just need to make sure they've got the cleats, they've got the mouthpieces, they've got the combination lock once we get into the locker room, the football girdle, the water jug, the shorts, the shirts, that kind of thing. If acquiring any of these items is a problem for you, please let me know. We do have extras that are kind of left behind. Football cleats, we have other things that we can dig out and make sure your kid's ready to go for the start of our practice. We will be wearing cleats. We will be practicing in just shorts and shirts that first day of practice. So other than a pair of cleats, that's all you need to bring to our first practice. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, I wanted to mention the BSN team shop is open. The link to this shop should be coming out. Actually, I can click on the thing here. The link to this shop should be coming out with this email. The store is open to Monday. Monday the what day is it? The 27th is when the shop closes on Monday the 27th. So you can purchase any of this stuff. As far as I know, this will be the only way for the students or for the parents to purchase football apparel this season. So if you have a question, let me know of how to purchase this, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Go to the link and you can add it to your cart. And then once the store closes, all the items will ship and I will be able to hand those out to you. So if you have any other questions that I did not get to, please let me know by emailing, texting, or calling me, and have a great rest of your summer. And I'll see you on August 3rd.